They told him not to touch the cloth, not to lift it, not to look beneath it, and for a long time, the rancher listened. But what finally made him reach out wasn't curiosity, it was fear. Fear of what he already knew was there. If you want to see how one small choice can destroy a man from the inside out, subscribe and like this video. You already know what kind of story this is. The body arrived before dawn. No wagon bell, no shouted warning, just the sound of hooves slowing near the fence, then stopping. Jonah Hale was already awake. Men like him rarely slept through the night anymore. He stood on the porch of his ranch house, boots on bare wood, watching the two riders sit frozen in their saddles like they didn't want to be the ones to speak first. Between them, draped across the back of a mule, was a shape wrapped in thick canvas. The cloth was dark, too dark, not from dust, from something else. One of the riders finally cleared his throat. Found her at the edge of the south road. Jonah didn't move, didn't step closer. "Alive?" he asked. A pause. Then, "We think so." That word, think, settled heavy in his chest. Jonah Hale had spent his life avoiding scenes like this. After the war, he learned one rule that kept men breathing longer than others. Don't look at what you can't fix. He'd buried friends without seeing their faces, signed papers without reading the details, let memories rot instead of opening them up. Because looking always came with responsibility, and responsibility came with guilt. The riders slid down from their horses. One of them reached for the canvas. Jonah raised a hand. "Don't." The man froze. "She asked for you," the rider said quietly. "By name." That cracked something. Jonah stepped off the porch. Up close, the cloth shifted, just slightly. A breath. Not steady, not strong, but real. "She kept saying one thing," the younger rider added. Jonah waited. "Leave her covered." Those words hit wrong. Not "help me," not "don't leave me." Leave her covered. Like she knew what looking would do. Jonah's hand hovered inches from the canvas, then a voice came from beneath it. Thin, dry, terrified. "Please." A swallow. "Don't." Jonah pulled his hand back like he'd touched fire. He straightened. "Take her to the bunkhouse, get the doctor." The riders exhaled, relieved. Decision made, danger avoided. They lifted the mule's reins. The cloth slipped. Just enough. Jonah caught a glimpse, and his knees nearly gave out. Not blood, not wounds. A face he recognized. Older now, thinner, but unmistakable. The past didn't knock. It kicked the door down. The woman under the cloth wasn't a stranger. She was someone Jonah Hale had sworn, years ago, never to see again. She had vanished after the fire, after the lie, after the night he chose silence over truth. Her eyes met his, and in them was not relief, only warning. "Jonah," she whispered, barely sound at all. "If you lift that cloth," her fingers clenched beneath the canvas, "you won't be able to put it back." The mule shifted. The wind rose. And Jonah realized something far worse than fear had returned. The debt he never paid. And this is where everything starts to fracture. Jonah didn't speak. Silence was the only thing holding the ranch together now. The riders waited, shifting their weight, eyes darting between Jonah and the woman under the cloth. They didn't know her name, didn't know her history. They only knew something about this delivery had gone wrong the moment Jonah's face lost its color. "Inside," Jonah finally said. Not loud, not firm, just tired. As they moved, Jonah's mind slipped backward without permission. Smoke, screams swallowed by wind, a girl standing behind him, fingers digging into his coat, Don't tell them where he went." He had nodded, said nothing, and that silence had lived inside him ever since, growing heavier every year. Now it had a face again. They laid her on the narrow bed in the back room. No windows, just shadows. The doctor hadn't arrived yet. The riders stepped out, giving Jonah space that felt more like a trap than mercy. The woman turned her head toward him, the cloth still covering her from the nose down. "You shouldn't have let them bring me here," she said. Her voice was steadier now. That scared him more. "You asked for me," Jonah replied. She laughed, a sharp, broken sound. "I asked for the past, not you." Jonah backed away. "I won't touch it," he said quickly. "The cloth, I swear." For a moment she closed her eyes. Relief passed through her features like a shadow moving off a field. "Good, then maybe we both live through this." Jonah didn't understand. Not yet. Her breathing changed. Shallow, uneven. Sweat darkened the canvas. "You're bleeding," Jonah said. She shook her head. "Not like you think." That answer made his stomach tighten. Outside, hoofbeats approached. The doctor. Time was slipping, and so was control. "Jonah," she said, opening her eyes again. "If you see what's under here—" A pause. "You'll remember what you did." The door creaked open behind him. "Where's the patient?" the doctor asked. Jonah stood between them. "She asked to stay covered," Jonah said. The doctor frowned. "People ask for a lot of things when they're scared." That word again. Scared. The cloth shifted as her hand clenched beneath it. "No," she said louder now. "Please." Jonah felt the moment narrowing. Two choices, both wrong, and only one that would let him keep lying to himself. Jonah raised a hand. "Give me a minute," he told the doctor. The door closed again. He stood alone with her. The cloth between them felt heavier than iron. Outside, thunder rolled far away. Not a storm yet, just a warning. She looked at him, eyes burning with something close to forgiveness and something far closer to judgment. "You still have time," she said softly. Jonah's fingers twitched. And for the first time since the war, he wasn't sure silence would save him. The room felt smaller, not because the walls moved, but because Jonah's past had stepped inside and shut the door behind him. "You remember the fire," she said. Jonah didn't answer. "You remember standing there while my house burned," she continued, voice calm, precise. "You remember my father screaming your name." His jaw tightened. "I didn't light the match," Jonah said. "No," she replied. "You just told them where to strike." That landed harder than any accusation shouted in anger. Jonah had replayed that night 1,000 times, always with excuses. "I was scared, I had no proof, they would have done it anyway." But hearing it spoken aloud stripped those lies bare. "You disappeared," Jonah said quietly. "We searched." She smiled beneath the cloth. He could hear it. "No," she said. "You waited." That was true. And Jonah hated her for saying it, because it meant she remembered him clearly. She winced suddenly, a sharp breath. Her fingers clawed at the mattress. Jonah stepped forward without thinking. "You're getting worse." "Yes," she whispered. "And if you keep standing there, I'll die." That snapped something. Jonah reached for the cloth. Her hand shot out, gripping his wrist with surprising strength. "Don't," she said. Her voice shook now, not with fear, but with certainty. "If you see me like this," she said, "you won't help me, you'll help yourself." Jonah swallowed. "Tell me what to do," he said. "I'll do it." A long pause. Then, "Burn it." "What?" "The cloth," she said. "Take it outside. Burn it without looking." Jonah hesitated. "And then?" "Then you can call the doctor back in." This felt wrong. Not dangerous, convenient, too clean, too easy. Jonah nodded anyway. "I'll do it." For a moment, relief washed through her voice. "Thank you." Jonah lifted the edge of the canvas. As he pulled, something beneath the cloth dragged. Not skin, not fabric, metal. Jonah froze. "What is that?" he asked. Silence. Then she said, almost gently, "That's why you can't look." Jonah's hands trembled. Under the cloth, something heavy rested against her side. Cold, unnatural, a shape that didn't belong on a living body. His heart hammered. "You're carrying something," he said. "Yes. What is it?" Her breathing grew shallow. "A reminder," she whispered, "for both of us." Footsteps approached outside. The doctor again. Time collapsing. Jonah's fingers tightened. "If you lift that cloth," she said, one last time, "you don't get to choose what kind of man you are anymore." Jonah stared at the covered shape, at the weight of years pressing down on a single moment. Outside, the door handle turned, and Jonah realized the lie he'd lived with for years was about to end, one way or another. The door opened. The doctor stepped in with his bag still slung over one shoulder, already talking. "You waited too long," he said. "Whatever this is, we don't—" He stopped mid-sentence. Not because he saw her, because he saw Jonah. Pale, rigid, hands clenched around the edge of the canvas like it was the only thing keeping the room upright. "What happened?" the doctor asked. Jonah didn't answer. He couldn't. "She doesn't want to be uncovered," Jonah said. The doctor frowned. "That's not her decision anymore." The woman let out a slow breath. "It never was," she said. The doctor reached for the cloth. Jonah stepped between them. "No." That single word carried years of hesitation and finally resistance. The doctor stared at him. "Move, Jonah." Jonah didn't. For the first time, Jonah understood something he'd avoided his entire life. Doing nothing was still a choice, and it always came with victims. "You didn't protect me back then," the woman said softly, "but you're protecting yourself now." Her words cut with precision. Jonah turned to her. "I'm trying to protect you." She shook her head under the cloth. "No," she said. "You're trying to stay the man you pretend to be." "That's enough," the doctor snapped. He pushed past Jonah and grabbed the canvas. Everything happened at once. The woman screamed, not in pain, in warning. The cloth came away, and the room fell silent. Strapped to her torso, bound tight with leather and wire, was a crude iron device. Not a weapon meant to fire, a trap meant to wait. Old, improvised, war-made. The doctor staggered back. My God! Jonah couldn't breathe. He recognized it. He had seen men die with things like this during the last year of the war, sabotage tools left behind, designed to punish anyone who tried to interfere. "Who did this?" the doctor whispered. The woman looked straight at Jonah. "You know who," she said. "Sheriff Dalton." The name slammed into Jonah's mind like a gunshot. Dalton didn't just burn farms, he made examples. "This thing is unstable," the doctor said urgently. "If we move her wrong, it'll tear her in half," she finished calmly. Jonah dropped to his knees. His hands shook violently now. "They put it on me because of you," she said. "Because you knew where my father hid the supplies." Jonah's mouth opened. No sound came out. "You talked," she continued. "And when they didn't find him, they left me this." The doctor backed toward the door. "I need help," he muttered. "This is beyond—" "No," Jonah said suddenly. Both of them looked at him. "You're not leaving her." The doctor hesitated. "You don't understand what this is." Jonah looked at the device again, at the wires, at the rusted trigger pressed against her ribs. "I understand exactly what it is," Jonah said. "It's the truth catching up." The woman's voice softened. "I didn't come here to survive," she said. "I came here so you'd finally have to look." Jonah reached out, not for the device, not for the cloth, for her hand. And for the first time, she didn't pull away. His whole body shook, not from fear, from knowing there was no clean ending left. The doctor's hands hovered uselessly in the air. "I can't remove it," he said. "Not here, not safely." Jonah already knew. The device wasn't meant to be disarmed. It was meant to be waited out. "How long?" Jonah asked. The doctor swallowed. "Could be hours, could be minutes." The woman closed her eyes. "Dalton never liked wasting time," she said. Outside, thunder finally broke. Rain hit the roof in sudden, violent sheets. Jonah stood, pacing like a trapped animal. "There has to be something," he muttered. "Cut the wire, jam it, anything." The doctor shook his head. "Every wire you cut is a guess, and guesses get people killed." Silence again, heavier now. "You want to know the worst part?" she said suddenly. Jonah stopped pacing. "I stayed alive because I believed you'd come back, because I believed you weren't like them." Her eyes opened. "That belief is what kept me breathing." Jonah felt something inside him crack. "I'm here now," he said. She smiled sadly. "That's what you said back then, too." Jonah looked at the door. "What if I ride out?" he said. "Find Dalton, make him tell me how to stop it." The doctor shook his head immediately. "He won't tell you," he said. "He'll watch you beg." The woman nodded. "That's the point." A knock echoed through the house. 3 sharp raps. Jonah froze. He knew that rhythm. Slow, confident, the knock of a man who expected the door to be opened. The woman's breath hitched. "He's here," she whispered. Jonah reached for his gun. Rain soaked the porch, and the past finally stood on the other side of the door. If you've come this far, you already feel it. Subscribe and like this video, because this is where choices stop being theoretical. Jonah opened the door just enough. Dalton stood there, hat tipped back, rain sliding off his coat like it knew better than to cling to him. "Evening, Jonah," Dalton said. "Heard you had a visitor." Jonah didn't move. "You did this," Jonah said. Dalton smiled faintly. "I finished something you started." Jonah's hand shook on the doorframe. "She's going to die," Jonah said. Dalton shrugged. "Then the debt's paid." "You want her alive?" Dalton asked. "Then give me what I came for." Jonah clenched his jaw. "What?" Dalton's eyes flicked past him, toward the back room. "Your confession." The rain thundered harder. "You tell them," Dalton continued. "You tell everyone what you did during the war." Jonah's stomach dropped. "And then?" Jonah asked. Dalton smiled wider. "Then, maybe I tell you which wire to cut." Jonah closed the door slowly. Inside, the woman watched him. She already knew. "Don't," she said. "If I speak," Jonah whispered, "they'll hang me." She nodded. "If you don't," she replied, "I die." The rain hammered the roof. The clock on the wall ticked louder than it ever had before. And Jonah Hale finally understood. Redemption never comes cheap, and it never comes clean. The rain didn't stop. It announced. By the time Jonah stepped back onto the porch, lantern in hand, figures were already gathering at the edge of the yard. Ranch hands, neighbors, men drawn by thunder, fear, and Sheriff Dalton's quiet confidence. Dalton raised his voice just enough. "Evening, folks," he said. "Didn't mean to gather a crowd, just here to clear up an old misunderstanding." Jonah felt every eye turn toward him. This was Dalton's gift, turning private sins into public executions. Jonah had faced rifles before. He'd faced hunger. He'd faced nights so cold he thought sleep would kill him. But this was different. This was being seen. Dalton smiled at the crowd. "Funny thing about war," he said. "Everyone does what they must, but only some men are brave enough to admit it." Jonah's stomach twisted. Inside the house, the woman listened. She counted breaths, each one shallower than the last. The doctor leaned close to her. "Whatever he decides," he whispered, "it has to be soon." She nodded once. She had already made peace with one outcome. A man in the crowd spoke up. "Dalton, what's this about?" Dalton gestured toward Jonah. "Our friend here wants to confess." Murmurs rippled. Jonah's ears rang. Confess or let her die? He stepped forward into the rain. "I gave them directions," Jonah said. His voice carried farther than he expected. "To the Cartwright farm." Gasps. Dalton's smile tightened, not pleased but alert. Jonah continued. "I didn't light the fire. I didn't pull the trigger." He swallowed. But I knew what would happen. The rain blurred faces into shapes, some angry, some satisfied, some relieved it wasn't them. "And why'd you do it?" Dalton asked gently. Jonah's hands shook. "Because I was scared." That word again. Dalton nodded. "Aren't we all?" Then he leaned in, voice dropping. "One more thing, Jonah." Jonah looked at him. "Tell them what you got in return." Jonah hesitated. Inside the house, a sharp gasp. The device shifted, metal scraping against bone. Jonah spoke. "I got this land." Silence. The rain seemed to pause. Dalton stepped back, satisfied. Someone in the crowd spat. Another man shook his head slowly. A woman covered her mouth. Jonah felt something inside him detach. Not relief, not forgiveness, just finality. Dalton leaned close to Jonah's ear. "Back room, red wire." Then louder for all to hear. "Confession accepted." Jonah didn't wait. He ran. Inside, the doctor was already reaching for the device. "Red wire," Jonah gasped. The woman looked at him, really looked at him, not with hatred, not with mercy, with recognition. "Do it," she said. Jonah's hands shook harder than ever. The rain thundered, the wire waited, and Jonah cut. The wire snapped. For half a breath, nothing happened. Then came the sound. Not an explosion, not a scream, a low metallic click. The doctor froze. Jonah's heart hammered so hard it hurt. The woman's body went rigid beneath the straps. Then, air rushed out of her lungs in one long, broken breath. The device didn't detonate, it released. A spring loosened, pressure shifted. The doctor moved fast now, hands sure despite the shaking. "It's disengaged," he whispered, "by inches." Jonah collapsed to his knees. His whole body shook. Not relief, not joy, shock. The woman's eyes fluttered open. She was alive, but barely. Outside, the rain softened. The crowd began to murmur, confused, restless. Dalton stood still, watching. Jonah knew that look. This wasn't over, not even close. "You spoke," she said weakly. Jonah nodded. "I did." Her fingers tightened around his sleeve. "You didn't do it for me," she said. Jonah opened his mouth to argue. She stopped him with a look. "You did it because you couldn't live with the lie anymore." Jonah lowered his head. She was right, and somehow that hurt more. The door creaked open. Dalton stepped inside without asking. The doctor turned. "You shouldn't be—" Dalton raised a hand. "She lived," Dalton said, almost amused. "Didn't expect that." Jonah stood. "You said red wire." Dalton smiled. "It was." Jonah's stomach dropped. "But it was also the only one that gives her a chance." Dalton leaned closer. "Never said it was enough." Dalton's eyes slid on the woman. "She'll talk," he said, "eventually." Jonah's hands clenched. "And when she does," Dalton continued, "your confession won't be the only one people hear." Dalton turned toward the door. "Enjoy what you earned, Jonah." He stepped back into the rain. Outside, the crowd had thinned, not out of forgiveness, out of discomfort. People didn't like staying around after truth surfaced. It reminded them too much of themselves. Jonah watched them leave. The land was still his, but it felt foreign now. That night, the doctor worked by lantern light. The woman slept fitfully. Jonah sat beside her bed. "You could leave," he said quietly, "when you're strong enough." She opened her eyes. "I'm not running anymore." Jonah nodded. Neither was he. As dawn crept in, Jonah realized something final. He had saved her life, but he had lost the man he used to hide behind, and tomorrow the town would decide what to do with what he had admitted. Truth didn't explode. It lingered. Morning came quietly. No birds, no wind, just the sound of Jonah Hale breathing in a house that no longer felt like shelter. The storm had washed the yard clean, but nothing else. The woman slept, pale, wrapped now in clean cloth, not to hide her, but to hold her together. The device lay dismantled on the table like a dead animal. Jonah hadn't slept. he didn't deserve to. Confession was supposed to end something. That's what Jonah had believed. Instead, it stripped him. No anger left, no fear sharp enough to distract, just space. And in that space, memories came back sharper than ever. Not the fire, not the screams, the waiting. The days after, when he woke every morning knowing what he'd done and chose to live anyway. Until now. By mid-morning, riders passed the fence, slow, careful, not waving. News had spread, not the kind that explodes, the kind that sinks. Jonah was no longer invisible. He was a reminder. The doctor packed his bag. "She'll live," he said, "if infection doesn't take her first." Jonah nodded. "And you?" the doctor added. "You should leave for a while." Jonah looked at the land through the window. "No," he said. "If they're coming, I'll be here." The doctor hesitated, then left. Later, she woke, more alert this time. "You didn't have to stay," she said. Jonah pulled a chair closer. "I know." She studied his face. "That's not why I came back," she said. Jonah waited. "I didn't come for revenge," she continued, "and I didn't come to die." She swallowed. "I came to see if you'd finally stop hiding." Jonah closed his eyes. "And if I hadn't?" Jonah asked. She didn't answer right away. "Then I would have known," she said quietly, "that silence won." That landed harder than any threat Dalton had made. By afternoon, a rider stopped at the gate. A folded paper, no seal, just wait. Jonah read it slowly. A meeting, tonight. The town wanted to decide. He folded the paper carefully. No anger, no surprise. He went back inside. "They're coming," he said. She nodded. "I figured." "You don't have to be there," Jonah said. She met his eyes. "Yes," she said. "I do." As the sun dipped low, Jonah saddled his horse. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like running. Whatever waited in town wasn't justice, it wasn't mercy, it was consequence, and Jonah Hale finally rode towards it willingly. They didn't meet in the church, they met in the open. Lanterns hung from posts, men stood in loose circles, hats low, hands quiet. No judge, no gavel, just memory and resentment sharing the same air. Jonah dismounted without a word. She followed, slower, leaning on a cane the doctor had fashioned from fence wood. Whispers rippled when they saw her. Alive. That alone unsettled the balance. Dalton stood near the edge of the crowd, not at the center. That was new. He watched Jonah carefully, like a man realizing too late that the story he wrote was no longer obeying him. A voice spoke up. "Is it true?" Jonah nodded once. "I told them where to find the Cartwright place." Murmurs. Someone cursed under their breath. Before Dalton could speak, she did. Her voice wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. "He told them," she said, "but he didn't light the fire." Dalton stiffened. She continued, "He didn't tie the wires to my body." Now heads turned, eyes moved. The crowd adjusted its shape. Dalton stepped forward. "Careful," he said sharply. "You start shifting blame, people forget who benefited." She looked at him. "I remember exactly who benefited," she said. Silence cut deep. "You used the war," she continued, "to take land, to erase names, to make fear useful." Dalton laughed once. "You got proof?" She nodded, and reached into her coat. She held up a small leather ledger, weathered, burned at the edges. "My father kept records," she said. "Names, payments, orders." Dalton's smile vanished. "This belonged to you," she said, tossing it at his feet. The book hit the dirt with a dull thud. Men bent down, read, whispered names. Dalton backed up slowly. "This is a lie," he said, but the words didn't carry. Jonah watched, not relieved, not vindicated, just present. A man stepped forward, then another. Dalton reached for his gun, didn't draw. He saw it, the moment the town stopped fearing him. She turned to Jonah. "You didn't save me," she said quietly. Jonah nodded. "I know. But you stopped running," she continued. That was all she offered, and it was enough. Dalton was escorted away, not beaten, not killed, stripped of authority, the worst fate for men like him. The crowd thinned again. Jonah stood alone with her under the lantern light. Tomorrow there would be consequences, but tonight the lie was finally done. Morning came without ceremony. No bells, no speeches, just dust settling where a man's authority used to stand. Jonah woke before the sun, already dressed, already tired. The town was quieter now, not peaceful, watchful. He stepped outside and saw her sitting on the porch, the cloth folded neatly in her hands, not covering her face anymore, just held. Jonah stared at it longer than he meant to. "That thing caused all this," he said. She shook her head. "No," she replied. "It revealed it." She unfolded the cloth. Inside, faint stains still marked the fabric, not blood, ash. "When the fire started, everyone wanted me covered so they wouldn't have to see what they allowed." Jonah swallowed. "So I wouldn't have to see it either," he admitted. She looked at him. "That's why I asked you not to remove it," she said. "Not for me." Jonah nodded slowly. "What happens now?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stood, slow, careful, and looked toward the edge of town, where the road bent into nothing. "Now," she said, "people will start asking who they were when it mattered." Jonah waited. "And you?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "I already know." By noon, a horse was saddled. Not his, hers. She moved with pain, but without hesitation. Jonah helped tighten the straps, didn't offer to stop her, didn't ask her to stay. That wasn't his place. "Are you leaving because of them?" he asked. She met his eyes. "No," she said. "I'm leaving because I don't need to be seen anymore." He nodded, then surprised himself. "I won't be here either," he said. She paused. "You always run," she said. "Why would this be different?" Jonah took a breath. "Because this time," he said, "I know exactly what I'm carrying." She studied him, then handed him the cloth. "Then don't cover your eyes with it," she said. "Use it to remember." They mounted separately, rode in opposite directions. The town watched. No one waved. No one stopped them. And for the first time, that silence wasn't threatening. It was honest. Years later, people would argue about what really happened. Some would say Jonah was a coward, others a hero. Jonah never corrected them. He kept the cloth folded in his pack, never used, never forgotten. Because the worst scars weren't meant to be hidden, they were meant to be remembered. And you already know, some truths don't save you, they just make sure you never lie to yourself again. If this story stayed with you, subscribe and like this video. The road doesn't end here.